Okay, sorry about the dim and murky, grainy lighting. It's evening here, and that's what I got to work with. So, I want anyone who's watching this, I want to invite you to do a little experiment with me. I want you to find, let's say an eval. And I want you just to take it to a place where it feels like it either wants to break or you have to strain to keep it engaged. I chose an eval because it kind of rules out the variable of shouting. You can't really shout with an E without losing the vowel itself, so if we chose an open vowel, then I would have to make that qualification as well. And you can still run this experiment with an open vowel, it's just something else you have to keep in mind. Alright, so if we just So for a lot of you, it's going to start feeling kind of heavy and tight around here. So we're not going to take it higher than that. Notice I was singing quite chesty there in the middle at the top. It's almost got a little bit of this kind of old man voice quality. Okay, so it feels a bit heavy and pressed. Okay, so now what we're going to do, we're going to go back, and this time we're just going to sing a falsetto. E, E. Make sure your E is deep and round, not E and air, thin and airy. It's got to be hooty, almost like an E inside an oo. So you can go ooh, ooh, ooh. Find a nice pure falsetto on an oo, and then switch to an E, 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 and kind of make the E inside the oo. E, E, E. Just mess around with it like that. E, 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 E. And what this does is it helps to elasticate and mellow out the voice by dropping all of the chest weight. If your voice has gotten tight because of excessive chest voice use, the the falsetto will help to remedy that. Now, a word of warning, too much falsetto and you'll get the opposite problem. Your voice will get kind of thin and weak and collapsed. So you have to try to balance these things together. So now, I want you to, let's sing a scale together. And I want you to deliberately allow it to be messy. I want you to just let it break, basically. I don't want you to try and avoid the break. So I'm going to, just to encourage that, I'm going to do this with you. Very, very let go, very messy. So, E, E. See, I'm letting it crack. E. I've been singing a lot of chest today, so my voice is slightly prejudiced in that direction, but I'm going to try and let it crack for the next one. E. There it is. E. E. So really, really, you can even just do that. E. See, it's still a bit chesty on my part. I gotta let that go more. E. That's better. E. 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 And with these cracks, with these bumps and these cracks, there should also be a sense of release inside the chord itself, inside the chords themselves. It's almost like, yeah, you know, you're singing more into just the membrane, the outer, I've heard it described as the shell of the chord, right? So singing progressively closer to a full falsetto, and it's like you're just letting go of that weight. E, E, E. Okay, cool, great. So, hopefully you did that along with me. Pause the video if you want, or just rewind it and watch and pause and do it in your own time if you want. Now, what I should have said this to begin with. Why are we doing this? Well, as I said before, you do need to, it is to do with kind of deconstricting the voice, it's to do with elasticating the voice, but what do these separate sounds, this on the one hand, this kind of heavy chesty sound, and then on the other hand, this kind of hooty sound, and then on the other hand, this kind of messy scale that doesn't really unite, where the registers aren't really united, what does this actually have to do with a good result? Well, here's the thing. Once you've got those registers both kind of in the game, you can start to play with percentages of them, right? So if we go back to the beginning again now, and just, I want you to err a little bit on the side of chestiness as you come up, release into a more falsetto dominant coordination, but almost use the chest voice like a springboard, like a diving board, right? So we're not just going to go yee and completely give it up. We're going to almost rev the voice, antagonize it with a little bit of chest voice coming up, and then let that kind of almost spill over into the falsetto, right? So yee, yee, it's pretty chesty. Yee, 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 yee. So now I'm able to get more release at the top with this nice strong foundation underneath and a thought of moving over into a more falsetto dominant coordination at the top. Now, if you apply this to more open vowels, let's just do some slides or something like that. So with an R vowel, for example, we'll often go like ah, and we'll end up in this very, very overly open kind of yelly coordination. And then it's almost like there's nowhere to go from there. So again, if you run through this process, ah, and then just let it break, ah, ah, and you can start to mess around with just the feeling of keeping a little bit more chest at the top. And you should get that kind of squeaky door laser beam kind of quality where you're keeping just a little bit of chest, a little bit of chord closure, but still allowing the voice to somewhat to float off into that falsetto zone, that kind of hoot place, right? And that's actually what causes the vowel modifications in the voice that you might have heard about. The falsetto is so much associated with ooh, 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 and the chest voice kind of likes vowels like ah and ah. Now, if you take those vowels that you're using and then let them kind of progressively head towards the falsetto, it's almost like an equation or like mixing paints. You're going to get some kind of combination of those vowel colors. So at the top, very, very common to feel and to hear other singers singing as though there's more and more ooh in the sound, right? And the net result of that will often be something like and that also feels a little bit like yawning, hence the yawning thing. All right, that's a lot of information. Let's muck around with the R. So, ah, ah, ah. I'm keeping it quite chesty up there. Yeah, quite a lot of compression. My voice is super, super tired because I've been singing for hours and hours today as well. So if I'm a little bit husky, that's why. But hopefully this will still just about work. Ah! So I'm just letting it crack, but not crack all the way. Now, if I still feel like it's a bit tight, hoo, hoo, and get a bit more of that in the mix. Hoo, hoo, hoo. If I feel like it's a bit weak, I can bring a little bit more of this sort of theatrical voice back in. Ah, 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 yeah. And it's by sort of messing around with these pulls on the voice that you can start to try to find some sort of nice balance. Now it's interesting to see again all these things that we've been taught to do via manipulation. I was hoping to get some light from my phone, but it's dead. So I don't know if you can see much, but if I do like yes, I did just try and adjust my glasses even though they're not on my face. If I do I mean, I wouldn't normally open my mouth this much, but so you can see what's happening at the back. Ah! Ah! Uh-huh. You can see everything just kind of falling open. It's like a flop upwards. That's the way it feels. Now, it makes sense. If you go, hoo, you can't see what's going on at the back of my throat because of the nature of the vowel and the fact that it's all closed off. But it's something like, hoo, hoo, it sort of looks a little bit like that, except my tongue is back instead of down like that. But there's that sense that the falsetto facilitates this sort of flopping open of the throat. Like a chimpanzee noise. And if you add the chest, just a little bit of chest back into that, then you can leverage the advantage of release that the falsetto brings whilst keeping enough of that sort of full, edgy, metallic quality that the chest voice has. The end.